Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by LeadGenius, higher quality leads and customized customer data at scale. Schedule a free demo at leadgenius.com/twist. And by Wistia, take control of your video marketing with powerful tools and analytics built specifically for business. Go to wistia.com/twist and get a free Wistia account today.
Hey everybody, you're going to love this episode. It was one of the favorite talks we had at the Launch Festival in 2015. It's Chris Sacca, who has the #1 episode of all time on This Week in Startups with none other than Tony Hawk, the legend, the skateboarder. And they're talking about their careers and the ups and the downs and the downs and the downs and the downs and the ups by two of the greatest of all time. One, the greatest angel investor, and one, the greatest skateboarder. An amazing episode where they get very personal. It was a highlight of the event for me, and you're going to love it. Yes, Chris Sacca is back on This Week in Startups.
That's what it's all about, man. They said, money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
We have a special treat for you. One of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about at this year's festival is motivation and really, as an entrepreneur, getting through those hard times and really trying to achieve the most elite level in whatever your chosen career is. And I'm really happy that my good friend Chris Sacca is here, the angel investor, and his good friend Tony Hawk, the legendary skateboarder. Chris and Tony, come on out. All right.
Sorry, we're
Very good. There he is.
we're meerkatting onto the stage.
We're here. Now you've brought a jar.
Too weird.
Hey.
Okay, you know what this is, right?
This is a jar.
What's the jar for, you think?
The swear jar, of course. Everybody, how many people saw the legendary Chris Sacca episode of This Week in Startups? Raise your hand. That's about a third of the audience. The other ones who haven't, you have a 3.5-hour homework assignment.
I know, that's collectively like 2 years of viewing time right there.
It's 2 years of
So for those of you who are uninitiated, Calacanis has a filthy mouth on him. And so
that's bullshit.
we decided to channel all of that energy into charity water.
Yes.
Right? So what are the stakes today?
Well, the stakes are normally $20 a curse.
But this is a big audience. We've got to raise the stakes, I think.
It's probably got to be a $100 then.
Okay, a C note per curse. Is there a ceiling?
I can't imagine there's a fucking ceiling.
Okay. All right, when is the clock?
Well, I'm 200 in already.
Oh, okay, begin.
Right.
All right, fucking A, let's do it.
All right, so there we go, it's 300.
We're going to count on the audience to tally, right?
Yes, anytime somebody's got to yell out the number or something.
Yeah.
And
Tony's an upstanding citizen who's learned how to control himself by this point in his extensive career.
Well, if for no other reason, just to save money.
That's a good reason, too.
Yeah.
It's more economical. So, Chris, you're obviously now have become the most legendary angel investor in the history of the sport of angel investing. We'll get into that in a minute. But before we do, I just want to play a true legendary performance. Let's just see what Tony Hawk is capable of doing here. Can we play Tony Hawk flying?
Good audio. That's me. Woo! Tony Hawk at night.
Wow, Tony, that was an incredible performance.
That's how I do
it
my
with the lights off.
I'm a little older now, so my performance is generally at night like that.
It's not, yeah.
Yeah.
But at night, when you're not able to see anything, it's okay. So
Actually, that was a clip of me in the Mega.
This is a tech conference, right?
It is a technology conference.
about
We're
that?
having a little bit of technical difficulty.
I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying.
There's some little bit of technical difficulties here. So when that's ready, we'll play it. But the reason I want to have you guys here, as you may have heard me say, is you've both reached the top of your games, but you didn't start there for sure. And in fact, the distance between where you guys ended up and where you started, especially in your case, Chris, it's a pretty wide gap, is it not?
It makes me feel really good that that was your opinion of me a few years ago. Yeah, I mean, as anyone here knows, it's just a lot of hustle, a lot of obsessive work to get anywhere, right? I mean, you need some luck, but it's never an accident. I think anyone we know that has succeeded in the startup game, the company building game, athletics, it's just never, ever an accident.
Yeah. And to put it in perspective, when we met years ago, you had started a small angel fund. It was, I think, $8 or $9 million. Is that correct?
Something like that, like 8. I think we only ever put 6 million to work. Yeah.
Yeah, you put like 6 million to work. That fund now, a lot of information has leaked out about that fund because you had LPs. I don't know who the LPs in that fund were, but they're pretty happy because the $6 million increased to somewhere, the legend has it, of over $1 billion. Can you say what it is?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, press accounts have put it somewhere over $1 billion. Yeah.
1.5, 2? I mean, it's still growing.
It's still definitely growing. It's got a lot of Uber, a lot of Docker, a lot of Optimizely, and so we got a lot of ramp ahead of us still.
And at the time you started that fund, you were the 250th most important person at Google. I mean,
no, not even remotely. No, at this time I started the fund, I'd left Google. In fact, when I left, a little while after I left, the New York Times wrote an article and said, "Why would this guy leave the greatest job in the world?" And I sat at my parents' kitchen table and cried and was like, "What did I do?" But I was so drawn to startups, I couldn't not be involved. And so I started writing, angel checks, but I didn't have an angel's bankroll at the time, so I needed the money back. So I would write a check to Twitter and then show up at Twitter, even though Jack didn't want me around, and just force my way into being helpful so that I could get that money back someday.
Right.
And ultimately, I mean, it was lean for years. There was a point where I started buying everyone's Twitter stock, and I ran out of my own money. And so I took a loan from my assistant briefly to float me until I could get a little more liquidity so I could buy more Twitter stock.
And you, at the end, wound up owning low double-digit percentages of Twitter? You represented?
Over like 15% of Twitter at the IPO. Yeah.
Amazing. Now, Tony, when you started, and do we have the Tony video ready? If we do, just go ahead and play it whenever it's ready. You started in skateboarding in the late 80s, early 90s?
Well, actually, late 70s.
Late 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Boom. Wow. No, no. Oh. Because we are family. We are family.
FAMILY till the day we die. Up in the gravel, put my face against the ground. Got some cuts on my upper lip, disrupted by the sound of a dog barking like a maniac. He was out up to a tree. For the moment that I let him loose, fangs were digging in my veins. 'Cause we are family. We are family.
I love LeadGenius so much, I invested in the company. Then I asked them if I could use the product. We started using the product. Then they started getting clients from me using the product and me tweeting about how awesome it was. And then they decided to sponsor This Week in Startups. How great is my life? I invest in a company, I use the product, they wind up supporting This Week in Startups. It's like, it's all this big flywheel. And why did I invest in LeadGenius? Because the sales process is extremely inefficient at the start. The start of the funnel is when you send that first email, when you qualify a lead. And you don't want to have your top sales executives, the ones who really are the closers, doing all that work. Let's call it menial work. It's like repetitive, menial tasks. I got to go find a contact. I got to send them an introduction email, et cetera, et cetera. I got to clean up the contact in our database, whether you use Salesforce or Tout or whatever you use. All of that is work. And you know what? My sales team for the Launch Festival and for This Week in Startups comes to work every week with new leads and new emails inside their email box and inside the contact management database. They don't have to do all that work. They basically start every day on third base. I'm going to probably cut their commissions based on this, actually. Now that LeadGenius is doing 75% of the work, I'm going to just send LeadGenius 75% of the commissions, and I'm just joking. Right now my sales team is spitting out their coffee. But we did this thing called reactivation. We had like maybe 50 people who weren't calling each salesperson back. What they did was they looked at those 50 people. They found 3 more people in each of those organizations, and they sent them, feeler emails. Hey, the launch festival's coming up. We'd love to invite you to come. Here's some background. Here's the companies that have launched. If you're interested in this, let us know. We'd love to have you as a partner. So you're stuck with 50 contacts. You can't get through to the right person. They then expand it to another 150 people, and they send the first email. And then the sales executive comes in, and there's email replies from the clients they were stuck on. It's so genius. That's why they named it LeadGenius. I've explained exactly how it works. I mean, the stuff I'm telling you right here in the text here is super easy. Fewer poor quality leads, more time selling, more revenue, you get that. But it's easier for me to just tell you how it works from my heart, from the desk of the CEO. I love this company. I invested in this company. They are geniuses. Go to leadgenius.com/twist, and they will give you an audit, a critique of your sales process, not just your lead process. They are going to give you a critique of your entire sales organization. If you're a CEO or founder, or you're the VP of sales, there's nothing to lose. leadgenius.com/twist, leadgenius.com/twist. Do it right now. leadgenius.com/twist. Who doesn't need more clients? Okay, let's get back to the amazing episode.
Wow. With the one with the 2 ramps, and you're flying between the 2 of them, how high up are you at that point? 50 feet in the air?
Well, I gauge it by the top of the ramp with
Right.
how, so it's probably like 10 feet above the top of the ramp, but the top of the ramp is 20 feet above the ground. So
You're 3 or 4 stories in the air.
yeah. But the key to stuff like that, especially when you see the big gaps that people do, the X Games, the big ramp, as long as you are on your skateboard at the moment of takeoff, your body trajectory will clear the thing. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how you end up, but you're going to clear that gap. It's when you, what we call speed check, or you puss out before, then you just fall in the gap.
Ooh. And that's happened.
That cost me $100.
Yeah,
I think piss out counts.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah. So you're
That
in
is
for
a
100.
straight up startup
That's
lesson right there,
That's
right?
a straight up start lesson. There is.
Don't speed check.
What is a speed check exactly?
Speed check is when, like in snowboarding, when you're about to head to a jump, you give it a little bit of a sideways slide to slow down a little bit, which generally works not in your favor.
You got to go with the speed.
You got to go with the speed, yeah.
If you try to slow down, it's not going to be pretty.
It's not going to be, well, you're just not going to clear the gap.
Which means you're going to get to
Worst case scenario, yeah.
How many bones have you broken?
3, but not ones people expect. My elbow, my pelvis, and my thumb.
All of them skateboarding, I assume?
All of them skateboarding, yeah.
3 seems like a pretty low number considering what you've done.
Yeah, but my shins look like that, so I've paid the price for a few years.
When you started in skateboarding, there was a little bit of attention, I guess, in the 70s, but then it kind of went away for a while. What was it like when you sort of had that sort of one peak of popularity, and then it kind of went flat for a while?
It was scary because my first sort of ride of success was in the 80s, and I was just out of high school. I was making really good money, and it seemed like it was going to last forever. And so I bought a house while I was still a senior in high school. I bought my second house just a couple of years later, and all of a sudden skating took a dive, and I had 2 mortgages, and I was like, wait a second, what happened? Where'd everyone go? Isn't this like, aren't we on the rise here? And it was just considered more of a novelty back then. And, I had to really, I had to regroup, and I had to conserve money and figure out my next plan.
So you went from making, I'm sure, 6 figures as this kid,
Yeah.
buying houses, and then it goes dry for your 20s. For how many years did the industry go
It's about
sideways?
5 years, 4 or 5 years. Yeah, I took out a second mortgage on my house, and I started a skateboard company, which seems like the worst idea at the time. But
You doubled down.
I really was banking on skating coming back around because it had been so cyclical in the past that I couldn't see it just dying completely. And so I did. I took a big chance. I literally ate Taco Bell and Top Ramen for a couple of years, and just made it work. And really, but the whole thing was following my passion of staying in skateboarding and building a company, yes, but just doing what I love. And so I didn't really care about the financial difficulties then, because I was still doing what I love.
And it then came back in a major way. What was the
Yes.
tipping point for this sort of, I don't know if it was the third generation of skating or the third boom?
I'd say it's the third, yeah.
Third boom.
In the late 90s, the X Games started to come into play. You know, people considered, well, there was more of an audience for that type of stuff. You know, it was like the extreme era, which we hate that word, but we fell into that category.
Right.
But video games, I mean, honestly, like when my second video game was released, that was, for me, that was the tipping point in terms of my own recognition and skateboarding lasting.
And when you start hitting those peaks, which Chris, you've hit, and I remember it was a year or two.
I was just gonna say on that, by the way, like when people come up to Tony, we're friends, so we hang out, and when people come up to him, one of the very first things they say is which skater they are in his game. So
Really?
like, there are people who are like, oh man, you're 900 or like whatever, I skate, etc. But people literally, like a guy at lunch today was even like, dude, when I play your game, I'm Bucky Lassick. You know,
Yeah,
like,
it's never me.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
They're like,
But
no.
it's amazing that wave, like how that really, you don't think about video games and bringing people back to physical world activity and stuff like that. But it was amazing how impactful that game was for people who are younger than most of the people in this room.
Did it drive a lot of people to actually go out in the real world and skate?
It did, yeah. And to be honest, that was an awesome sort of side effect of the game, but one that my partner at the time in my skate company, we would have these arguments because I said, you know, he's like, well, they should pay us to use our products in the game or our licensed name in the game. And I said, really, I think that this game could inspire people to start skating, and I think we're going to benefit from that so much more that this is free advertising.
Right.
And we would butt heads on that for the first 2 games. And then he realized, wait a second, this is the coolest thing, opportunity for our company ever.
And when you start hitting those peaks, in the back of your mind, are you thinking about the last time it went bust and wondering on that third wave, you know, this is going to end? Did you start getting conservative, thinking, I wonder when this is going to end?
You know, I did for a while, like when things were really on the rise, but then I saw how prolific skateboarding had become and how parents started to embrace it. There were public facilities being built. You know, these weren't just temporary places. These are in concrete. There's many here in the city, and that's when I felt like it's really, the foundation is set. It's not going to die down. It may come in, you know, it may waver in popularity a bit, but it's never going to die down the way it did.
The foundation was set quite literally. Like, they built a lot of these skate parks, and you've built with your foundation.
Yeah, well,
hundreds.
I started my own foundation for public skate parks about 12 years ago. Chris was actually a board member for a bit, and it's because I saw the interest of skating rising. I saw some cities trying to provide facilities, but they weren't consulting the local skaters in the process. So they were building the facilities that they were getting basically the lowest bid of a sidewalk contractor to pour this concrete, having no idea what really is functional,
Right.
and it being less fun than the local shopping mall.
Right.
And so I wanted to turn that tide, but more so to direct that funding to the more needy areas. And so we've been going, the last 12 years, we've helped to develop over 500 parks, and we've given away over $5 million. And
Wow, incredible.
best thing.
Powerful.
What's cool about it is they go in the poorest places. Like when I was riding my bike across country, I went through this little city on our Native American reservation called Yuba City, and it was just one of the poorest places I've ever seen in the United States. Like dust everywhere, et cetera. And all of a sudden I crest this hill and there's a skate park, and I stop my bike and I get out and I start talking to these kids, and they're amazing. All the kids in the community, like the little ones are on their Razor scooters. And so I called Tony and was like, hey, can we give these kids like free gear and stuff? And he's like, yeah, just get everyone's names and addresses and we'll send a bunch of stuff there.
Wow.
And so I gather up addresses, and then all of a sudden I started talking to these kids who are a little reticent. I'm like, just give me your address. We're going to send you free stuff. And it turned
Not
out
creepy at all.
Yeah, exactly. And I had a beard and Lycra, you know.
On a
I was
bike.
definitely like,
Mom!
I pulled my van up, and no, but I said a couple of them were really reticent, and I'm like, why is he hesitating? And they're like, because he doesn't have an address. And so we literally had to do a deal with the local Boys and Girls Club to send equipment to these kids because they literally had no physical address. And yet these parks, you know, that's where they would spend all their time. This is the one refuge they had.
But if anyone lives near a skate park, you know, it gets used from sun up to sundown. You can't say that about all the other sports facilities.
Right, yeah. And Chris, when you came into the angel investing space, we were kind of in this third wave of the internet, Web 1.0, Web 2.0, and you had the financial crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of brutal, was it not?
Yeah, I mean, most of the bets we had made no sense at the time. I mean, you and I are of that generation of people who got wiped out a couple of times. I mean, you know my own personal history. I was sent, 7 figures below zero in the crash of 2000. Dug my way back out to where I got back to zero finally, and threw a party, a BYOB party, because I didn't want to go back into the debt. And then, but a lot of those bets we were making, I mean, I think Silicon Valley was a purer place during that downturn.
Yeah.
Because the posers were gone, right? So we didn't have a ton of business school grads. It wasn't sexy. Rent was affordable. People just left, right? They took their U-Hauls one way and didn't come back. And so the people who were here were the true inevitable company builders who were going to be entrepreneurs no matter what.
Right.
That's who was here. And so there was a self-selecting quality among the founders and among their startups back then that we don't necessarily have today. And I think that's why, if you look at a lot of the fantastic companies, that are the fabled unicorns today, a lot of them came from that era when it was only the best and the hardest working and the most grinding entrepreneurs out there were left.
And let's talk about the grind and getting through those times. What do you think it is in entrepreneurs and athletes that gets them through those down moments, the moments where they're not able to achieve, when things are sideways? I mean, did you have a point in your career, Tony, where you were not able to perform the 900s, the insane stuff you've done, where you were kind of in the negative zone?
Yeah, well, not just in terms of physical performance, but also in terms of business as well. I mean, there were times when I started our company, Birdhouse, in the first 3 years in, we were ready to give in. The sales just weren't there. The interest wasn't there. And the same with my skating. I was still improving my skills, but for no audience. So it was definitely difficult, but we embrace those challenges too, especially as athletes. I mean, someone poses a challenge to you, and you have to figure out how to get over it. And so in doing that in my skating and also in the business, it was like, well, this is what's coming at us. We've got to figure out how to navigate this and how to succeed. And a lot of people just give up. And especially in skating, I mean, that's the first sign of someone that's going to be successful. It's no matter how successful they get, especially in competition, they continue to challenge themselves because they want to improve. Those are the guys that make it way further than anyone else.
Because you did hit the peak at a point, and you had to come up with you really weren't competing against other people as much as yourself, correct?
Yeah, for sure, in competition. But that wasn't my drive. My drive was just to keep improving my skill, not how I fared compared to everyone else.
Yeah.
But I've talked to him about the fabled 900, right?
Yeah.
So that was a legendary, to go 900 degrees. It's just something nobody else could do, et cetera. And when you talk to Tony or you talk to an athlete like that, I think the same thing you hear when you talk to a startup founder like an Ev or a Zuck or the Collisons or whoever you're talking to, a Travis for sure. There's just an inevitability that they know that it's going to happen, right? So it's not a matter of oh gee, I hope someday I can do a 900. Yeah. You just know it's going to happen, and you know that every day you go out and keep pushing yourself and ringing your bell and falling and getting stronger, it's going to happen. And I think that's the one thing that sets apart our most valuable and high impact founders are, it's just not a matter of if this company succeeds. It's obviously going to succeed.
Right.
And they're the founders who interview you as an investor, and their whole thing is, why should I be giving up any of my equity to you? How are you going to make my remaining equity more valuable as a result?
Right.
And you're just like, oh shit, this guy's going, that's $100. But
yeah.
You're just like, this guy's going somewhere. I better jump on this train. I remember Kevin Systrom embodied that.
From Instagram fame.
Yeah, who would have ever invested in photo sharing again back then, right?
Yeah, it was like Flickr. We saw this movie.
We saw it. I made money in Photo Bucket. Who was ever going to have lightning strike twice in photo sharing? So I was like, eh. And then as he started talking about, well, when we get to 75 million users, we're going to do this. And when it hits 200 million users, we'll have this kind of reach. We'll be able to do this kind of stuff. And by the end of it, I was just like, geez, take my money, man. Like the guy was clearly going somewhere, even if I didn't believe in the underlying product as much as I should have in retrospect.
Hey everybody, let me take a moment to tell you about a product I love and use every day. It's video hosting from Wistia, W-I-S-T-I-A, Wistia. It is awesome. And who uses it? MailChimp, Moz, HubSpot, Zendesk, Herman Miller, Sam Adams, and of course, This Week in Startups. They've got 140,000 customers, and they are growing like a weed. Now, why do we use it? Well, if we use a free service like YouTube, we have all YouTube's ads and collaterals and garbage, and it looks terrible, and it's not customizable. So it looks bad, and everything that YouTube does is in service of increasing their metrics, not your metrics. Well, what are your metrics as a business? Well, for me, it's collecting emails. 2, it's having people on my domain, my site, making it look beautiful, not having that ugly thing that comes up at the end of like a YouTube video that shows all the different videos of other people that I don't want to send my users to. I want, when the video ends, for them to watch another episode of This Week in Startups. I can control all of that with Wistia. That's why I use it. And it works perfectly on Facebook and Twitter with the cards, and you can play it natively on those platforms. It's gorgeous. And it'll give you a ton of support. You want to take control of your video. Video is a huge asset, and you want to do it professionally. The analytics program is amazing. You can see on a user-by-user basis how long they're watching, and if they rewound and watch a section twice, all this kind of great stuff. Tons of support, super easy to use. And it's built, a lot of their new tools are built for marketers, so collecting emails and that kind of stuff. And you don't have YouTube or Vimeo doing that kind of stuff. Those platforms have their own goals, which is selling ads and keeping people on their platforms and stealing those users from your platform. Start your 2-week trial for free on Wistia, wistia.com/twist. No credit card is required because they're so confident that you're going to love the service like I do. And you can upload as many videos as you like. Wistia.com/twist, W-I-S-T-I-A, Wistia.com/twist. I love the product. I love the team. And it's been fantastic for us. We got control of our own videos again, and we are now collecting emails every day, dozens of emails every week, hundreds of emails every year, thousands of emails to build our direct relationship. That is not have an intermediary between it, telling us how we can talk to you, our fans. We have a direct relationship. It's brilliant. I love Wistia. All right, let's get back to this amazing episode. Is there a moment of kind of pushing it too far that you see with entrepreneurs? Maybe they just hit the gas, or athletes a little bit too much, and they need to actually.
I think it's more when they lose the passion for the product or for the purpose, and it's more about just trying to cash out. Then you lose your oomph. You can't force it. It has to really come from your heart. And I mean, I truly believe living the dream is just doing what you love, and regardless of the financial success of that. Because you're going to enjoy going to work every day, and if the whole idea is like I'm just trying to, for the exit, then there's no passion there.
And you have seen in, sorry to use the word, extreme sports, it feels, I think, to some of us on the outside, like there's a group of folks who are there who are pushing the envelope, perhaps in an unhealthy way. When I see you on the skateboard, it's one thing. When I see the snowmobile flip over,
the sled necks,
and I'm just like, this looks so dangerous, and I think people have in fact died.
Well, especially in my sport, there are some people that are just they want the glory, and they don't have the skill set to back it up, and we see outrageous crashes because of that, which obviously is a lot of the reason people tune in to things like the X Games, but it doesn't really help in terms of inspiring others to do it or the progression of the sport in general.
And as I'm sort of now elder statesman, legend in the space. I mean, you're still doing 900s at 44 years old, though. I mean,
I think he just won the last comp he was in.
I mean, what is it about skating or you that you can do this at 46? 46. You're winning still, like Michael Jordan.
I mean, I hope to be doing it when I'm 46. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, but Michael Jordan, when Michael Jordan played for the Wizards those last couple of years, it was like, ooh, is no chance he's going to win.
Skating is as much an art form as it is a sport. So, I've just sort of fine-tuned my art to fit into my abilities and my age, so I'm not out there trying to do the next spin or the next giant aerial. I'm more technical with my skating and doing stuff that I can survive. That's pretty much what I've just sort of shifted my direction, but still innovating.
And do you talk to the younger skaters about like some of the crazy, dangerous things and say, hey, maybe you want to pull back, or do they?
Well, no, I'm not one to ever try to,
Yeah.
Pump the brakes.
Pump the brakes,
pump
as
the
it were.
brakes for any, because I believe in the progression of our sport, and I believe there are things being done that, yes, they're absolutely dangerous, but the people that are pushing those limits do have the inherent skill set to either make it or to get out of it safely. And when I see these things, I know that there's a confidence level too that these people have, that I had as well.
Right.
That that they're going to get it done. You can see it in their face. You can see it in their abilities.
So as terrorizing as it is for us to watch sometimes, we actually should.
It's very calculated risk.
It's
yes.
very calculated.
Yes.
When you see the kid, what's his name, Alex, who does the free climbing, you must have seen him. Arnold, without the ropes. What do you guys think of that level? I mean, it's truly impressive to go up El Capitan without a rope. It seems to me when the North Face or whoever is sponsoring them and people are kind of glorifying it, this seems like it's not wise.
He was doing it before anyone was paying attention. I mean,
True.
Dean Potter was the best and was tying himself up, and Alex started going out without ropes and just doing it for himself, like for bragging rights at Camp 4 up in Yosemite. And I mean, there are certainly different motivations for these things. I think Tony tapped into, and we see that in startups too. I mean, I'll just say I am driven crazy by the startup founders who start blogging and giving advice, before they've fucking done anything or accomplished anything at all. God, it drives me crazy. Yeah, I'll put a little money in the jar, but I'll just say it fucking drives me nuts. Like when they literally just, I mean, I see people in our companies who will like lie and bullshit and raise under fraudulent means, and then go do a panel on fundraising. And, and you're just the amount of braggadocio around some of those things. It's just not like doing a startup to get famous or to attain peer recognition is not a great motivation. It'll fail. But I think our most successful people and the people that you and I know, whether it's as a founder, as an investor, or as an athlete, like I used to try and preach like work-life balance, and I just don't think it's really that possible when you're playing at the top of your game. Like when you're in that phase where you are filled with the height of your ambition and your drive and your commitment, I think the one consistent characteristic around the most successful people I know is they don't really have a lot of that balance. You saw me tweet out that Kobe quote the other day about like, Kobe just is like, I can't be a good friend. I don't have time enough to be a good friend to other people. Too busy. And I found like a lot of, being good at this requires so much work and so much hustle. It comes at the expense of other things.
And have you pulled back a bit now? I mean, I know you have Matt Mazzio doing a lot of the investing.
Yeah, Matt runs our seed fund.
And you used to be here and like everywhere and meeting with everybody all the time. Are you done?
That's a myth. In 2007, I moved to Truckee full time so that I didn't have to be here.
Right.
I found I was playing defense in this town. Like everyone was coming up and pitching me their thing, and everyone was inviting me to coffee, and everyone was inviting me to cocktail parties and dinners. And then at the end of the day, I had given everyone my time and I hadn't accomplished anything. I hadn't moved my agenda. I hadn't written what I wanted to write. I hadn't explored what I wanted to. And so I moved to Truckee so that I had the perfect excuse to not meet with anybody. And then I chose the people I wanted to know better, and I invited them up to the house. And we would go skiing, drink beers, go for a hike in the summer. Travis used to spend 6 hours in the hot tub. He has an inhuman ability to stay in a hot tub for hours and hours. And we would just, with all these people, we'd jam on product, get to know each other better, and then I'd build more meaningful friendships with fewer people. A few years ago, I moved part-time to LA too. We have kids, and it's an easier place to raise kids. And so I think it was less about dropping out of startup life and more about being way more deliberate and efficient about how I spend my time. If you get up and you start working your inbox all day, you could spend 8 hours in your inbox and not accomplish shit. Like all you're doing is appeasing everybody else's demand on you, right? It's publicly posting your to-do list for everyone else's action items. And so if you can pull yourself out of that environment and just focus on the things you actually want to do, you're lethal.
It's kind of like Tony knowing what moves you can do at 46 and still winning, but you're winning in a different way.
Yeah, and it just like he said, spending your time more wisely, and realizing that I don't have to go to all the whatever invites, award shows, things like that. Like that's not benefiting me or my sport or my direction. And that's pretty much what I did. I got back to basics, almost exact same timing too.
And basics was just getting on the board.
Basics was just, yeah, getting out there and skating and reconnecting with the actual core skate industry and not living on the fringe of celebrity, so to speak, because that's not ever why I got into it.
Well, and just taking your board to parks. So Tony's famous for just showing up at a random skate park and just skating with kids unannounced. No security, no handlers, no anything, just shows up and rolls. And I think like watching him do that has been just reconnecting. I mean, I miss when this business used to just be about 3 kids connecting with me at Brick House and showing me their demo. Now the demo days are 500 investors and 50 companies and no live code, no diligence, just a meat market and stuff. And it's hard to add any value there, and it's hard to sort through the chaff. And so I think by intentionally withdrawing from that, I've been able to focus and be just a lot more effective. I think I'm more helpful as a result. I'm a better person to be around. And, we miss some stuff because I'm not going to every party here and meeting every kid. We miss some stuff. But I think the one thing I'd like to point out is when I moved to Truckee before it made any sense for me to do so. I couldn't even afford my house up there. I couldn't get the mortgage. But it was a deliberate, now, in retrospect, risky decision, but I needed to make it. And I think it's one of the things that defined our business and, allowed us to be competitive in a way that nobody else could.
So do you guys prefer when things are booming and the ratings are there and the market is high? Or do you actually prefer the quieter moments when the market is maybe at the bottom and coming up and when it's a little bit smaller?
I mean, I can't wait for the crash to happen, frankly. I think Bill Gurley's post about the 80 unicorns and how many of them will ever go public was prescient, just like everything Bill Gurley writes. And it's inevitable. I think this whole valley has gotten way ahead of itself, and I'm excited for the crash, for all the pretenders to clear out, and for the people who are the diehards, the builders, the people who have been hustling and selling candy in their high school cafeteria, who have just, who've been going door to door their whole lives, who just are built for this game. I can't wait till it's just them again.
And what do you have a prediction for that? You think that's just imminent?
I'm not a good macro predictor. I follow like Mark Andreessen and these guys to pay attention. I don't follow like the Greek debt crisis and stuff like that. I try and focus on startups, but it's just inevitable. I spoke to a company last week that was raising a late stage round because we have a big late stage fund too, and we do late stage deals. And I said, okay, sounds good. They're doing this, they're doing that. And revenue wise, I was like, what's the price? And they said $1 billion. And I was like, so how'd you get to $1 billion? And they're like, well, because that's kind of like table stakes now. Everyone's raising at $1 billion, and if we're gonna recruit, we got to be on the list of unicorn companies, so it's got to be $1 billion.
So for recruiting,
that was the valuation methodology.
Yeah.
That's
what
fucked.
Could go wrong.
That is completely fucked.
One more time.
Yeah.
And again.
It's for charity water, right?
How fucked is it?
So wait, there's a lot of people in this room.
There's a lot of people in the room.
Yeah. So
how many people would like to join us?
No, how many people are there? How many people are there?
There's 2,000.
Okay, so it's 2,000 people.
Or so. I mean, there's
so
people
here's
standing.
The deal. So $10,000.
10,000
builds a well for in let's say Ethiopia, where Tony and I have traveled to Ethiopia with charity water. So
you guys both went?
Yeah.
How was that on you, Tony? Well,
It was awesome.
Wait, you're pulling me off the part where you're about to be on the hook for a lot of money. So let's do this really quick.
He did this last time.
I know. Target.
Okay, so here's the thing. So $10,000 builds a well. It saves an entire village.
The last time you did this to me, the well was $2,500.
Yeah. The
price of wells are going up in Ethiopia?
It has, yeah. Yeah, well, they've got great data now on depreciation, on maintenance, that kind of stuff.
Right, and they want to be in the unicorn well group to recruit.
So $10,000 would save an entire village. Tony and I have visited these villages. We've seen firsthand, like the minute you put these wells in, kids stop dying, they stop having diarrhea, the women start going to school. And so there's a couple thousand people in this room.
A couple thousand, yeah. 2,000.
So, I mean, if we came up with $10,000, that'd be like a tribute from you back to all these people who paid all this money to be here.
You do know I gave all these people free tickets.
So like it'd be like a five.
I think I'm paying twice.
But I have a feeling that
I have a feeling too.
That
I have a
if
feeling.
I were to put up $5,000 right now,
You
you would gladly put up $5,000, and we would do it
Is
well.
Tony putting up $5,000 for the well
so-
too? I mean, Tony's over there. Tony's giving.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, so that's 15.
Okay.
So do 5 more then, and then it'll make it 20.
Wait a second. I just agreed to 5.
You know what we should do? Here's what we do.
You turned the fund into 1.5 billion.
Here's
I'm
what we
working
do.
here.
Here's what we do. I'll do 5. He'll do 5. You do 5.
Okay.
And then you're going to put up the site on Charity Water,
Okay.
charitywater.org.
What we'll have to do is
this
ask
audience is going to do
everybody
the
who
5.
here. Yeah, well, very simple. In my audience, who will put up $2? Raise your hand if you put up $2. That's everybody. So there we go. We just raised the other 5.
Yeah. All right. So put the site up.
Yeah.
Everyone here will contribute.
Okay.
And then I'll feel like my time here was worthy.
Absolutely. It's completely worth it. Well, there you go, folks. We just bought 2 wells for Ethiopia. Completely fantastic. Tony, what do you want to be remembered for? You know, what's the legacy?
For my $5,000 contribution to Charity Water today.
Well, you got that. That's checked. That box is checked.
No, to be honest,
I mean, you're a young guy, so I don't mean to say that like you're going to be gone.
no, that's fine. To be honest, I only ever wanted to be remembered as a good skater. You know, someone that was innovative in the sport. And I know people like to associate me with helping to usher skateboarding into the mainstream consciousness and maybe other successes, but the only thing I ever really wanted to do was get better at skating and to be recognized as a good skater.
Yeah, you accomplished that when you were 16, 17.
Okay, well, then a Simpsons character.
Yeah.
That worked out pretty well too.
That's probably one of the coolest things that I ever got to do in my life.
I think one of the greatest things about Tony that I think could be a legacy, an aspiration for the rest of us is I've spent a lot of time with him. I've traveled a lot with him. And compared to the other celebrities that you and I know and travel with and stuff like that, there are only positive vibes around Tony. And so people of all walks of life, inside this country, outside this country, come up to him and they immediately have a positive story to share or just want a high five from him or something like that. And I've never seen that with anyone else
It's
that we know
consistently
anywhere.
super positive.
It's consistently super positive. And when we have traveled with other celebrities, they put up, like the celebrities put up walls, they have bodyguards, they have handlers, etc. Tony just shows up. Like we went to Dubai and we went skiing inside in Dubai in this crazy mall. And while the rest of us are getting our gear, Tony just went in and put on his snowboard and started hanging out. And he was so accessible. It didn't even process for people that was Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
And so they were like, wait, what the fuck? And so they, that was like a half a swear, by the way. And so what was amazing was instead of like putting up boundaries, he's just very, very accessible and inclusive. And I think all of that good energy is something that I wish I could engender more of.
I think you're getting there.
All of it, yeah, I got a long way to go.
You're getting there. I agree.
But I think that's an amazing legacy.
What, is there something you can attribute that to, your childhood, or just was there a moment in time you said, I'm just going to keep this 100% positive?
Well, I think it was living through the, having huge success and having it pretty much all taken away. It really humbles you and makes you appreciate when you get it back that much more, and that you could lose it all at any second. And so for me, it was just more like, even now, like I can't believe that I still get to ride my skateboard for a living. That's ridiculous and amazing. And I do it for free any day, but I've never lost sight of that.
To skate.
Yeah, and get paid more money than I ever dreamed.
That's pretty good.
Like I said, I would do it for free any day gladly. And so I have never lost sight of that. I'm very appreciative to still be here and considered relevant.
I mean, you get paid for people to sit and listen to your bullshit all the time. So
I know, it's true. I do. There's a lot of these people here. What about you, Chris? I mean, you in a way stumbled into this angel investing thing and became #1 overnight. And now you
didn't feel like let's just be clear.
Listen, it was
By the way, that's like one of those questions like, when did you stop beating your wife? I wouldn't agree that I'm #1 angel investor, and I also
clearly are
overnight.
#1 in terms of results. So I'm basing it on just tangible results. Now, also in terms of the founders who I know, and people say value added, I would also say that you're in the top 1, 2, or 3. So just the question I'm trying to get at is like, you didn't intend for this to be the chosen career, and now you're the best in the world at it, hands down. What is the future hold for you? Because this wasn't exactly chosen, was it?
Okay, so I was recently cleaning out my garage, and I found this notebook from when I lived in Ireland, and I was like sitting in a lecture or something, and I was supposed to be paying attention. And I was flirting with this girl, and we would write questions for the other one and pass it back and forth.
Yeah.
And she wrote in there, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I wrote, so I was like 19, I think. And I wrote, I don't know what it's called. I don't know if it exists, but I want to talk on the phone a lot, negotiate with people, high stakes, high risk, high reward, high likelihood of failure. And I want to do it part-time from the mountains and part-time from the beach, and whatever it is, I want to move on to the second chapter by the time I'm 40.
Wow.
I turned 40 in May.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is right now. I think I want to rediscover my passion for when this business was pure. Like, when we launched our later stage funds, I mean, we raised $1 billion or so in the fall of 2010. Like, that's unfucking believable, right? I mean, it just comes with a whole new set of privileges and opportunities, but it also comes with knives out and, blood on the walls and a lot of betrayal, a lot of old friendships were burned up. True colors come out, and the high stakes game is nasty.
Isn't it though?
It's just the worst. Like,
a lot of sharp elbows.
People get fired. There's a lot of lying. There's a lot of bullshit. It's horrible. And I'm still trying to heal from some of that. And I don't want to do that part anymore, even though that's where all the crazy money is. And so I think personally, I'm just trying to rediscover my passion for a few kids starting something cool for all the right reasons, who don't care about the immediate exit, who aren't building it for a flip, who would hopefully find me helpful, and something that I'm so excited about. I just want to help, even if there isn't a lot of reward at the end of the rainbow.
Tony, what have you learned from the friendship with Chris, I wonder?
I think that there are many more similarities than people can imagine with our worlds. And Chris really was invaluable as a board member of our foundation, teaching us social media presence and how to make an effective website. And I never thought of those things. I never realized how important they were and how much resonance they would have. And so I think we both been through ups and downs in similar ways.
Yeah.
I think, though, he's been a big influence on how we do stuff, like at Twitter. So Tony started these worldwide treasure hunts. So he would stash. For a long time, you would just,
originally it was just skateboards.
If he skated on a board, he would take a picture of whatever random place he was. He would stash it somewhere, take a picture of it, post it to Twitter, and then people would just race to try and go get Tony's board somewhere, right? It was a total phenomenon. And then he formalized it and made it into this massive treasure hunt. And so he would have a network of volunteers stash shit all over the world. Like,
we're doing it in April, the next one.
Are you doing one in April? Right on. And so these and now, by the way, they're like swag boxes.
Well, the irony now is that there's no skateboards whatsoever because I have so many sponsors that want to get involved and so many companies.
What do you call this box? It's just a box.
A box of stuff. Yeah, I mean, now, it's got like headphones, guitars, we've had bikes.
It's like a box of
Dude, we already capped it. We already.
Yeah, we're never gonna get there. We're never gonna get there.
A box of priceless goodies.
Yeah.
Awesome. A box of priceless.
You may have a different word for it.
I've been at Birdhouse when they're packing these things. It's just
so rad.
That one of those ramps you saw is at their headquarters, and it's just filled with boxes everywhere. And they ship them out to the far reaches of the universe. And then one by one, he gives clues about where they are. And then, dozens. And I happened to be in Nashville when you sent that one out in Nashville in like 2009 or whatever. And it was just like, I went to the park and there were 36 kids hunting for this
so
box.
Awesome. The funny thing is, though, I have people helping all over the world. And somehow people still think it's just me.
You're like, wow, you got from Tokyo to Berlin.
Paris and in Sydney.
He's the Easter Bunny.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was innovative for us to actually start seeing real world impact and reach of Twitter.
Right.
That was one of the first examples for us. And to see that kind of integration was cool.
Awesome. Well, this has been truly inspirational. Let's all thank Tony Hawk and Chris Sacca, the greatest, the legends in their field.